Hi there, I'm John Carroll from Jemison. You're very welcome to Love Your Local, an online workshop and seminar that's going to help you prepare for the doors to reopen this summer. It's been a very turbulent period, to say the least, but with hope on the horizon, we want to help you turn the lights back on brilliantly this season. Over the next hour or so, we'll be covering two topics with an exciting panel of guests and speakers who between them have a vast range of experience when it comes to branding and social media. We'll also hear from you wherever you're tuning in, answering as many of your questions as possible for our panelists. So welcome everyone at home to Love Your Local, and please welcome our first panel who will be discussing the importance of branding in bringing customers closer to you. Between them, we're going to discuss how to create the brand of you, whether you can fit 20 or 200 people on your premises. It's all about your personality, and we'll discuss how you can show it off. First up, I'd like to introduce James Dunn, who's worked with brands all over the world and now works as Senior Strategic Planning Director at Teneo, based here in Dublin. James, great to see you. Next, we've got Ken Robertson, CEO at creative agency The 10th Man, and former, wait till you hear this title, Head of Mischief and Director of Advertising at Paddy Power. Great to see you, Ken, and we'll find out a little bit more about that title of yours in a couple of minutes' time. We've also got John Duggan, a director of Duggan Group, who own and operate the likes of the Martello Hotel, Harbour Bar, Box Burger, Platform Pizza, and more. John, great to see you. No doubt you're extremely busy at the moment with your preparations for reopening. And finally, we've got Caroline Kelly, director also from Teneo, who has a wealth of experience when it comes to the elevation of brands. Caroline, you're most welcome. Thank you for joining us. So guys, we've given your titles. It'd be great to hear a little bit more about you and what you do. And Caroline, can I start with you?
Sure. So I have been with Teneo for 5 years, and I suppose really my role is about working with brands and businesses to understand what it is that they are trying to communicate to their audiences, and really just help them build that story. My kind of background is digital, so a lot of the emphasis is around how do we get that message across to audiences via digital channels specifically.
Brilliant. So the good practical advice to come from you.
Hopefully.
In the next few minutes. And James, you're also at Teneo.
Yeah.
Senior strategist.
I know, it sounds very impressive.
Whatever that means.
Whatever that means.
Trying to figure it out.
My background's actually in creative advertising. So I was seduced to the dark side of the force about 5 years ago, like Caroline. I kind of work at the intersection of the consumer and the brand, and try to find the interesting spaces for brands to turn up and stand out in the crowd. So I'm very thrilled to be on a panel with the Harbour Bar in Bray. So that's going to be amazing.
Yeah. Looking forward to reopen.
I can't wait.
Yes. Ken?
Hello, John.
I love that title.
Thank you very much.
We'll talk about that in a while. So you're with the 10th Man.
Yes, I'm founder and CEO of The 10th Man, which is a advertising agency based in Camden Street. This is year 4. Before setting up 10th Man, I had an 18-year stretch in Paddy Power. Wow. I was their first marketing hire in the last millennium, would you believe, in 1999. And fast forward 18 years when I left, there was around 250 people in the marketing team. So
huge.
Extraordinary journey to be on, and delighted to be a part of it.
And doing great things with the 10th Man now.
Yeah, well, I'd like to think we've taken a little bit of that kind of disruptive DNA from Paddy Power and brought it into the agency. So we like nothing more than working with like-minded brands and organisations and businesses such as IDL.
Brilliant.
To try and stir things up a bit.
Brilliant. Well, we look forward to hearing about some of that stirring up. And John, no doubt a very busy man at the moment, getting ready for reopening. Thanks for taking time out.
No problem. Thanks for having me. I suppose I'm 27 years in the pub game, all those years in Bray. Started with a bar called Katie Gallagher's, which our dad kind of more or less said, do you want it? Or else I'll sell it or kind of lease it out. So myself and my brother took that on. There's 3 of us, 3 brothers in the business. I suppose we went from Katie Gallagher's, I moved down the road to the Martello, and then we turned that block into pretty much lots of restaurants and different spots, which include Boxburger, Platform, Bottle Shop and many others. We also acquired the Harbour Bar possibly 6 years ago. So lots of different brands in a very small space in Bray, County Wicklow.
Brilliant, 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 brilliant. And yeah, looking forward to getting back out to Bray once we reopen in due course. You guys have worked with lots of different brands, big and small, down through the years. Can you tell us a little bit about what I suppose the small businesses can do that some of the larger ones can't when it comes to brand storytelling? Ken, if I can
Sure, of course, yeah.
start with you, Sam.
I suppose one clear advantage is they can move fast.
Yeah.
With an awful lot of the kind of bigger companies, there tends to be a lag of anything that can go from days to weeks to months. Actually, to get a campaign from an idea to out there and really affecting people.
The old red tape.
Well, that's it.
Yeah.
You know, the analogy I used back in Paddy Power, when it was a small company, you could come up with an idea and you could execute it literally within hours. You know, when I left, because the company had got so big, there were lawyers and there were processes and there was risk analysis. So for me, the key thing is just about agility. And, you know, if you are reacting to something that's, let's say, in the news agenda, you don't really have the luxury of days or weeks. You need to kind of hit it really, really hard.
Yeah, absolutely. And social media probably being at the heart of that, Caroline.
Absolutely, yeah. I suppose with social, there's nearly an opportunity and a challenge, I suppose, at the same time, because you've got all these new touch points where you can communicate really quickly and efficiently. However, at the same time, I suppose that means that audiences are nearly expecting a quick and an effective response. And, you know, sometimes to Ken's point, it can be difficult when you're a global brand and there are approval processes in place and you need to kind of run these things past the hierarchy. When you, however, are a smaller business, you know, you really own your own narrative and you know your business inside out, as I'm sure John will allude to. But like, you know, it's much quicker and it's much simpler for you to get out and to, I suppose, communicate with your audiences in a really clear and effective way.
Yeah, brilliant. And actually, John, interesting, I suppose, as a business owner, you've probably got lots of hats on. You know, you're the operations person, you're the marketing person, the HR person. So is it is that the case?
Yeah, very much so. My brother Connor probably should be here because he's more of the ideas and marketing genius. But I suppose we have a good mix. I suppose I've been more people. Connor's definitely ideas and marketing. And then my brother Brendan, not only he's great with his hands, he's like a builder, but he's also the money man as well. So we've a very good balance. But yeah, I suppose absolutely being able to flip your product and just, we don't have to sit down around the board. Like we do most of our things just on, so if lockdown brought anything, it just speeds everything up. And all of our, it's just all Zoom meetings. And I was on the car on the way in and we just did it and just sorted something out. So it can happen really quick and it's not, we don't even price it. We just go, is it good for the business? Go ahead, do it. And when can it be done? And pull the lads off a job, we start it tomorrow morning. So I kind of, it's pretty, it's hard for our competition, but it's good for us because
so you're extremely agile and you can make decisions fast.
Yeah, exactly. And change our product very, very quickly. Or if we see something else, let's do that. We'll roll it out. Probably in a few days.
And I guess that was probably even heightened during the last 14 months or so.
Absolutely, yeah,
being able to do that. And I guess, you know, the bar, the hospitality, the events, the venues industry for the last, 12 months has had an incredibly difficult time, but an amazing industry at that. What do you think sets the industry apart when it comes to branding, James, if I can ask you?
Yeah, I think it's important to kind of distinguish between brand and branding sometimes, right? So what the guys were talking about there is the ability of owner operators to move really, really quick. And like Ken said, move at the pace of culture, move at the pace of the news, turn stuff around, get stuff out there. And I think that's brilliant. But the other thing that they bring to the table is you've got a huge sense of intimacy with your audience. You see them, they expect, you have relationships with people, you have regulars. And certain outlets index on certain things. They index on food, they index on music, they index on, some places are just well known for their art of conversation, for example. So I think kind of bringing it back to knowing what's at the core of your offering is fundamental in shaping whatever you put out into the world. So that's really your brand. And everybody gets excited about the branding component of it because the cost of entry now is so cheap to get stuff out on social media. But I think if one thing that the lockdown has probably given owner-operators and people in the hospitality industry a chance to really think about who they are and kind of get centered and get ready to go again and almost reinvent the industry and bring what's brilliant about the past into a completely new consumer context, which is it's going to be really very exciting when we see what happens on the 5th of July.
And just in terms of connecting with those audiences and reconnecting, I suppose, with customers who've physically been apart for the last 12 or 14 months, what's the best way, Caroline, if I can ask you to I guess connect and reconnect?
I think again, it's not to kind of say it's not important when it comes to brand, but it's actually, I think, much simpler than maybe people realize. It's just about being really clear about what your product offering is, what your role is as a brand or a business, what it is that you want to portray, and then being really clear in your communication with your audience, understanding your audience, and what their need state is, and what you need to do to meet that need state. And it's really that simple, not to, not to kind of disenchant. But
Ken's nodding his head and violent agreement, I think.
Of course, if you employ us, it becomes a lot more complex.
And I guess with the audiences and the customers being away, and everybody overuses the word pivot in the last year or so, do you think, and John in particular, do you think this is a time where it presents us with a great opportunity to attract some new audiences into the business?
Absolutely, yeah. It's kind of now it's our time to shine. So we've done it all in the takeaway market, from everything from your drinks to what your food offer is, and even just having that same standard that you'd have indoors. So it's going around shaking hands and saying hello to Tommy at the counter. We had to do that with with the consumer at home. We had to make sure we only send out one delivery and it gets there on time, and make sure it's piping hot. So even just getting the packet wasn't, we just go to Musgraves and buy a load of packaging. It's getting the right stuff. Does that work with that?
Yeah.
It has to be stickered up. All the brands have to be totally different. So you just had to be on the money. So now they really trusted our brands, and I would hope that they're going to say that's where we're going when we reopen to one of our offers. But yeah, and it was brilliant because we kept all the staff and they were our key people. So it wasn't like, we shipped in a load of juniors. So they were on the same journey with us. So they know exactly what we're looking for all the time,
So it's that personal touch. So regardless of whether they were physically on premise with you or they were, enjoying, your product at home, it was still, that personal touch, personalization, all of that's still so vital.
And it was just as important, if not even more, that there was somebody at the end of the phone to say, I'll have that to you in 2 minutes. It'll be, don't go with the next order. This has to go to those people, and throw in a dessert or something to make sure that they are happy. Because it's just as important for that, even though it's takeaway, it's kind of going, but it's still, our brand is on it. So we had to say, right, that has to get to that customer and they have to be happy, and we're sorry about that, but hopefully we've rectified it. So it was that was really, really important for us, and to keep our name clean and to make sure that...
And then by default, if you do a really good job there, the power of word of mouth, hopefully that will bring new people into your physical business when you do reopen.
Absolutely, yeah. No, people are kind of going, how many vans do you have? Because I'm sure it's like any suburban town, like all you're seeing is taxis and delivery vans or whatever. So that was all that was in kind of Bray, was lots of those. And then we got e-bikes just for kind of shorter runs. But again, people were just saying, God, if almighty, how many bikes do you have there? So it was good that they were heavily branded up, so people were able to recognise them very easily. But again, it's our brand in their head,
Yeah.
and it's keeping it fresh, you know.
And brand awareness, and as you say, you've lots of different businesses within Bray, and I suppose each of your business with a different brand personality. Just on brand personality, James, if I can ask you, what are some ways that business owners tuned in at home would be able to bring their brand personality to the fore and connect and reconnect with their customer base?
Yeah, I think it's interesting what John talked about the role of people in delivering the brand. And I think one of the things that when we talk to people and how they're expecting to go back to the pub, to the restaurant, they're really looking forward to that interaction. So in many ways, the brand starts with the experience that you have, the interpersonal experience of the people within the pub or the bar. So I think that's really, really important to kind of re-energize. I think people will be very energized to open up again, but I think almost to reset the narrative that people want to talk about their own bars again. I think that's an incredibly powerful channel. And then the other part of it is, and to kind of echo what Caroline says, is when small businesses try to boil the ocean, when they try to do too many things with their brand, when they try to be all things to all people, that's when kind of the execution gets out of hand, and you're trying to keep too many balls in the air. You're juggling marketing rather than concentrating on doing one thing well and setting one thing, exploding one thing about what's brilliant about your brand. And it goes back to that essential truth of what great locals are, that they're either connected to the community, they're connected to culture, they're connected to food. It's really celebrating those innate truths about what your local pub brings.
Yeah.
And an awful lot of the time it starts with the first interaction you have with a barman or bar lady.
Yeah. So
if you can say that.
So people at the
core of
heart.
it, yeah, absolutely. I think the best bars, and I think John, you'll probably agree with me this, the best bars are in the walls hum with heritage, but also they have people with a passion to serve as well. So igniting those two components of your brand, your story that comes from maybe your geography, your location, your town, your relationship to a football team or a sport, and imbuing that, resetting that kind of story for people to get excited about again.
Which is a really interesting position, because I guess, if you look at the local, it relies on people, being together, sharing great stories over a great drink.
Yeah.
But in the last year, we've not been able to do that. So we've tried to move some of that experience online, and it is that kind of, fusion of the physical and the digital world. What are your thoughts in terms of I guess, where the twain meets in the middle with that, Caroline?
It's been a really interesting year, and I mean, I just think we should actually take a moment to say fair play to all those small businesses. You mentioned pivoting. The work that people have done over the last year to try and keep staff retained and to try and make sure that they are servicing their community. Like we mentioned earlier, it's about understanding your audiences and their need state, and with everything that happened in the last 12 months, to see the work that small businesses put in to change and alter their offering to really service their community has been amazing. And as you said, some people are doing great, really impressive things online and trying to kind of entertain via online. I do think, and I'm the digital person kind of saying this, what it has shown though is there's no replacement for the real thing. And John, I'm sure you can probably agree with that one. I think we're all just, it's innate in us as humans, that interaction in real life, that people are really just dying to get back to proper conversation and those kind of moments of interaction at the pub.
And I think it's really highlighted that people do have that deep love for their local, that it's kind of the anchor within the community. I suppose, what has the last 14 months or so taught us in terms of recognizing that love for the local, and I guess, are there any kind of practical tips, John, that you might be able to offer some of the people tuned in terms of really taking the insight around people's love to get back into their local, and how can business owners take that forward and, I suppose, incorporate it into their marketing plans on social media?
I suppose you see it every day on social media. They're not going on about the supermarkets or they're going on about flights, but it's the pub, the pub. It's constant. It's on radio shows. It shows that everyone is just wanting to get back. Like Irish people are social creatures, so we love to have a chat and a natter, and whether it's coming in for a breakfast, whether it's coming in for lunchtime, whether it's coming in for pints, the pub is the place for that, and it connects and brings people together, and it definitely is the guy behind the bar, and like publicans don't take people on because of their CV and their ACV. It's how's it going?
Yeah.
Can you have the bit of crack? Have the eye contact? Like that's what we just want banter. I said I couldn't give a damn how many A's or B's or whose son you are. I said get in here and spend 2 minutes with me across the table, and I'll tell you if you're hired or not. So that's what people want in the premises, and people are so forgiving if you're trying your best. They don't want some guy kind of looking down the nose at you. They want just decent people serving you who want a passion. They want to hear your stories. And they want to talk to people.
Yeah.
But go back to your question. I think people are really, anyone who's either opened their doors or they've stayed closed, I think everyone is going to really up their game and say, do you know what, we're going to put on an amazing show here, and we're going to make sure that people know how valuable the pub was, and that we're going to be absolutely, like, the place is going to be sparkling. The pint is like, I suppose, the pint is something people really, really missed, and say cocktails.
And a short one.
And a short, of course. But it is.
Enjoyed
it's just,
responsibly, of course.
They're just missing it so much. So they really want to get back in, and just everything that goes along with the pub, definitely.
And it's funny, like we're Irish, and storytelling is very much in our DNA. I think as is humour, wit, and charm, and I think they were probably three attributes greatly leveraged by Paddy Power. Moving on over Ken, if I can, and I mentioned about your title. Can I ask, was that a real title?
The Head of Mischief.
Yeah.
It was, and it was one that was given to me more, and I think irony by the CEO Paddy Power at the time, and just can't get rid of it. I think it's going to be etched onto my tombstone now at this stage.
It's brilliant. It's a great icebreaker.
It certainly is. But look, to your point about Paddy Power, I suppose it's no great secret, but the key to the success of Paddy Power was the founders of the company decided that they just didn't want to create another betting brand that sits in the betting category, that they saw Paddy Power as being a brand that's about entertainment. And all of a sudden, when you're playing in the space of entertainment, you just have such a wide playing field to operate on. So that opened the doors for Paddy Power, the first bookmaker, to start taking bets on TV shows like, Who Shot Mr. Burns in The Simpsons, and like back in the 80s, if anybody can remember, is old enough, Who Shot J.R. in Dallas, and all this type of things. But what it did was it just broadened the kind of sector of betting, which at the time back in the 80s was just all about horse racing or greyhound racing, when all of a sudden now you could have a bet on a TV show, you could have a bet on the outcome of an election, and the brand itself then kind of was crafted really by virtue of its audience, which at that time and to a certain degree still is predominantly male, will be guys kind of aged anything from 18, 20 right up to 50 or 60, online clearly younger. But, the tone of the brand really was to play to that audience. So all about banter, all about laddishness, but, trying to tread that line of being a little bit controversial, but not crossing over to being crass or, not hurting too many.
No.
Yeah.
No.
I did end up in Joe Duffy.
I'm glad you said I didn't know that, but But I suppose there are a couple of key ingredients in there that a big company like Paddy Power absolutely can play with, but so too can an independent bar owner, using social media to have some fun in order to connect with their audience.
Look, absolutely right. I think what's really interesting from a publican's point of view is the first kind of cohort of real true digital natives, so people who grew up on the internet and just have been immersed in it since they were born. They're coming of age now. They're kind of 18, 20, early 20s. So that's their first language. Their media habits are totally different to mine, to most people on the panel today. They don't watch linear TV in a way that, you know, we're all used to. These guys, they're multi-screen. My own kids, I don't think they know how to turn on the TV set, you know. But they've more devices and phones and you name it. So, so there has been a really noticeable shift towards digital.
Yeah, brilliant. And both yourself and James, you've worked with brands all over the world. I'm sure you've travelled internationally with Paddy Power. What makes Irish brands so distinctly unique?
It's funny, we were just talking about it before we rolled cameras, talking about the Harbour Bar. And go back to that sense of intimacy, that Irish people are very good at creating snugs and huddles, and that sense of also welcoming the outsider in. And I think the idea of mischief goes alongside intimacy in a really nice way in Irishness. And the best Irish brands tap into both the idea of intimacy, mischief, playfulness, and a sort of informality that can tread a line sometimes. But yeah, I think Irishness as a brand, and Irish pubs as a brand, as we said earlier on, like you cannot imagine this country without its pubs and its bars. Pubs are to Ireland what sun is to the Costa del Sol. Okay, you can't get away from that. And if you're thinking about if you're imagining the country, you cannot imagine this land without its pubs and its publicans and the experiences that are take place in the pubs. So every single pub, bar, restaurant is a little bit of Ireland, and it manifests what's best about us as a people, which is the ability to welcome, to have banter, but also to, I think, create soulful connections with each other. And that's, I think, what people are really, to Caroline's point, really hungry to get back to. The serendipity of the pub. Amazing place.
Would you agree, Caroline?
Yeah, I would, which is unusual for us.
I know, that's odd.
No, absolutely. And, you know, I kind of mentioned earlier, like there's no dark art to brand and branding. And I think it's a really important point to kind of communicate to any small business or a publican out there going, well, I don't have a marketing division or, you know, I don't have multi-millions in terms of marketing budget. It's coming back to basics, isn't it? And, you know, as James mentioned, it's about the brand. So like, what's your physical environment? What's your offering? Making sure that you're really happy with those. And then the branding is really, it's just how you're putting that out to the world and what it is that you want to communicate and stand for, and showing that out to the audiences. So.
And just on that point, so like for a lot of people, you know, the whole world of digital might feel a little bit intimidating, but are there any kind of practical tips you could offer even some of our viewers who are tuned in and maybe aren't as strong on their social media channels, but absolutely have a great story to tell, have great brand, have great branding, have great people working with them as part of the team? So how could they, I suppose, practically start getting more of a presence on their social media channels? Yeah,
absolutely. And I'd love to get John's thoughts on this as well, because you know, I'm sure that you guys have your own channels going, but look, for me, it's there's a few things about digital that are fantastic. It's at your fingertips. It's right there. Like you can do it on the go. It's where our younger audiences and older audiences in some places are spending a huge amount of their time. So it's like another gateway for us to communicate. So you know, we kind of mentioned earlier, Ken, you were talking about your kids and how they're not watching TV. In much the same way, a lot of people aren't picking up newspapers or magazines anymore, but they're on social media 24/7. So it's another touch point. It's another way to communicate. I think if you are somebody who's a little bit nervous about it, or you're kind of starting out on that journey, it's coming back to what is it that I really want to clearly communicate. And what it probably might sound a bit silly to people out there, but a lot of times big brands will often talk about like, who are we? If we were to personify a brand, who would we be? You know, and if you kind of maybe think about yourself, if you're a publican with a pub, you are that brand. So, you know, what's, like you talk about brand personality, what's your personality? What do you want to stand for? And that's a really good basis for you to kind of start thinking about, like, what's my tone of voice, and what do I want to communicate? Who's coming in here on a Friday night, and what are their passion points, and what are they interested in, and what are we doing to offer? Like, is it music, live music and culture, or, you know, and what kind of things are we doing there to align to that? And it's putting all of that together and just putting a little bit of structure on it. What I would always say to people is, you know, maybe think about what it is that you want to say first. Show it to one or two of your colleagues as well. You know, don't feel like you have to kind of get it all done yourself, and, you know, share these things and speak to people and have really open conversations with your customers about, you know, what it is that they want to see more of or hear more about, and figure it out. And like, people get it wrong all the time. Don't panic, you know, it's not the end of the world. Once, you know, maybe after midnight on a Friday night, don't go on Twitter. You know, there's a few things like that, but, you know, it's about having a little bit of fun and not taking it too seriously.
Brilliant advice. And John, specifically for your business, how important is social media to your business?
It's massively important, and especially after lockdown, it really got your brand and your name out there. And it's very much having the right people doing your stuff, and that voice that to make sure it is your personality. But also you can have your content creators as well to keep that. Like, my kids are the ones who tell me if I'm doing a good job or not, or Dad, I want to go there for an ice cream or for whatever. So you're kind of going, oh, right, and what's different about there? You know, so you really have to listen to lots of people, as opposed to old-fashioned publican is, well, that's my way, and we're, you know, so that day is gone. You have to listen to your customers, listen to your children, and just try and get it as close to the money as possible. And absolutely, don't be afraid. Try it again and try it again, but don't. And you don't need any. Sorry, lads, you don't need loads of fancy videographers. Like, it's.
We're shooting this on a camera phone, by the way.
But even just simple stuff, you don't have to go and have a photo shoot for every drink you make. It's have a good camera phone and stuff like that, and even just do little small stuff.
And even at a basic level, see what works, how many likes you're getting on a particular style of content that goes out there.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, brilliant. And I guess that we're just back to the love of the local piece. Like, if you'd one piece of advice we could give in order to, I suppose, harness that and promote that in order to reconnect and maybe reach new audiences, Ken, what would that be?
Look, I think it's a really interesting time, John. I'd say most people have reassessed their relationship with brands and businesses in a positive way. I think there will be a palpable move towards supporting local business, and I think this is going to play out very well for publicans, I hope. From talking to John earlier, it seems your challenge isn't getting people in, it's actually getting people back out again, which is great to hear. So, I think the time is right. I'd say just don't try and over-engineer it. I think just opening your doors back up and welcoming people back in, you know, you're literally pushing against an open door.
Yeah, and it's great. I think it's palpable. Even, you know, walking up through town here today, you can see, and, you know, with recent government good news, and everyone is just really looking forward to it. I think to a great summer. John, can I ask you, I suppose, just before we wrap up, what has been the single most important lesson that you've learned during the time that your business has been closed?
I would say most important thing is to change, and change quick if something isn't working, as opposed to just going, sure, it's grand, and sure, it worked when I was open as a pub, so it has to work. That's what the customer wants. So I think change it, and change it really quick. The brilliant thing about takeaway, nobody knows, have you done 500 covers or you've done 10?
Yeah.
Whereas you walk into a bar and
It's so visible.
Exactly. So that was a great thing about Takeaway, I think. And then just engaging with your customers as opposed to saying, this is the way I'm doing it. And, so keep that in social media. Ask, have we got the right menu you want?
Yeah.
Are you enjoying our product?
Yeah.
Please let us know. So and then obviously from now, any advice I'd give is, I think good times are on the way. It's going to be really good. Don't be afraid. Staff up. Have lots of people. The customer wants to see that sanitizing. They still want. I genuinely think it was how I did really well after the first lockdown. I had my people going around wiping menus, telling people to wear masks, sanitize your hands. They want to feel safe in your premises, so do not scrimp on that. Would be my advice, and I think the customer will vote with their feet.
Brilliant practical advice. And I think I'd like to wrap asking you each the same question if I can. And back to that love of your local. What are you looking forward, Caroline, to most when we can eat indoors, outdoors?
I'm really looking forward to just going out for brunch with the gals and not coming home for a few hours. But it's just that thing of just getting together with people who you love and who you haven't seen for a long time. Like for me, the bars and restaurants are facilitators of those great moments, those great conversations, and it's just about seeing the people you love again in a relaxed environment.
Not too long to wait.
Yeah.
James, are you
Music.
giddy? I think you're giddy, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm kind of like, the amazing thing about it is like just the loss of live music.
Yeah.
I think not just from the artist's perspective and the publican's perspective, but for punters who really did take it for granted. I can't wait to be in a dark room with very, very loud guitars and kind of shouting my head off. That's going to be a cathartic experience. And if I can get it locally, like I mean, in the 15-minute city,
and you mean not your bedroom? Now.
Yeah. In an actual bar somewhere,
Yeah.
that's going to be an amazing moment. And I think that's going to be an amazing moment for a lot of people.
Right. So we've gone from lunch with the gals to Metallica in the dark room somewhere. Ken, please.
I suppose just for a slightly different point of view, something I'm really looking forward to is just going to a live sporting event and then the few pints or the few drinks afterwards in a pub and just that post-match analysis just with your buddies.
And the crack.
Exactly.
Bringing the crack back.
That's it.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. And John, I guess you're in that environment like every day of the week. What's your take on it? What are you looking forward to?
I suppose having a chat,
Yeah.
and it's not in a back garden or it's on the side of a street or something like that. It's in a pub and you can have a bit of banter and you hear the noise in the background and it's all right, lads, same again.
Yeah.
And just simple stuff, but just I get asked probably every single day that kind of, John, what are you waiting for? They just want to go to a pub, have a bit of crack and have a trip.
There'll be a magic moment when it comes, closing time and the barman goes, have you no homes to go to? It's going to be one of those, really?
What? At 11:30. At 11:30
Yeah.
for the time being. And I think it's, for a lot of people, I know even personally, it's all the occasions, the birthdays and I think all of that will be made up. And I think getting family and friends back together and just in the local and having the crack and stories and in time when we can, even a physical hug, I think would be lovely. Guys, thank you so much. It was absolutely fantastic to hear your stories and receive your insights. And for those of you at home, we hope that it was a useful conversation and that you can take some practical advice to bring into your own businesses. As we mentioned, Ireland has an incredible reputation for our pubs and our bars, and everyone has a story to tell. It's about creating that narrative and allowing customers to be part of it. Stick around now because we have an online workshop with 2 experts in social media who will give some practical tips on how to leverage your digital marketing and socials in order to amplify your voice. Up next, we've Sean Early, Director of Social Strategy, and Nicola Halloran, Associate Director, both from Teneo here in Dublin.
Thanks a million for that, John. That was really interesting. And we're going to take you all through now the Jameson Love Your Local Social Media Workshop. My name is Sean Early. I'm Social Media Strategy Director at Teneo.
And I'm Nicola Halloran, an Associate Director at Teneo. So let's get going.
So we're going to take you through the channels, the content and the creative that you can deploy on social media to attract customers back into your establishment now that we're back open again. We're going to kick off first of all with the channels. The first thing that we want to address is that social media really can be utilised right across your business in various ways, right through from marketing to sales, even HR and recruitment if you need to fill vacancies. Primarily today we're going to be talking more about how we attract customers into your outlet using social media platforms. First off, just to address that social media can be utilised in terms of driving your rate of sale and discussing three key aspects of this. The first is very much of the awareness piece. So what we see from research is that about 49% of our 18 to 29-year-olds have bought something based off of a recommendation on social media. Very much what we want to do is get into the news feed of this cohort in order to attract them back into your establishment and utilise social media to help you achieve your sales targets. The second piece is what we call social proofing. And this is where individuals use social media to see where their friends are going out for drinks, what restaurants they're going out and eating in. And again, being able to understand whether your pub or your business is resonating with their cultural tribe and really kind of driving that fear of missing out aspect. The last piece is about relationship building. As people return to pubs and bars again, they'll want to know what the story is with bookings, availability, capacity, is there limitations on opening hours? And what we see is about 53% of people who follow a brand on social media and interact with them positively are more predisposed to be loyal to that brand or that business. So again, three key aspects of how we can use social media to drive that engagement with customers. When it comes to setting up social media platforms for your business, your bar or your outlet, it's really important to understand where audiences are. Look, there's been a lot of conversation about Facebook and, people leaving the platform over the past couple of years, but make no mistake, it is still the largest social media platform in the country, even globally, when it comes to people using social media platforms to engage with brands and businesses that they want to learn more about. What's really interesting, and we're going to touch on it a little bit later in the presentation, is that Instagram is the fastest growing platform in Ireland when it comes to social media at the moment. We hear an awful lot about platforms like TikTok being really popular, and sure, they are. But in terms of reaching the most amount of your audience in the most impactful way, Facebook and Instagram are really two very powerful platforms that you can utilise to get your brand and your business out there. We look at other platforms like Twitter and LinkedIn and Pinterest, but they're less important to what we're going to be talking about today. However, we do have some basics in terms of what those platforms are best used for and when you might look to deploy them. So moving into what we just discussed, in terms of Instagram, it's very much a platform where we can drive appetite appeal. It's about aspiration, it's about inspiration. It's a really visual shop front for your business. And being able to utilize formats like Instagram Stories or Instagram Reels, which we'll touch on later on in the presentation, will enable you to find creative ways of engaging your audience. When it comes to Facebook, we're still seeing a very engaged community using the platform. It skews slightly older in terms of the Irish population who use the platform still. However, what we are seeing is Facebook is increasingly using the platform to grow more authentic grassroots communities, and we see the growth and the rise in community pages as a result of this. As mentioned, more secondary platforms will be the likes of Twitter. This is a really good platform, however, for engaging with influencers or engaging with news media around trending topics or around, moments in time. And then also YouTube from a longer video form perspective. We touched on TikTok and we also mentioned Pinterest earlier on. TikTok is very, innovative, a kind of a new platform. It is very much in that short video space. It doesn't offer as much of a compelling aspect right now for paid promotion in terms of smaller brands. When we look at the likes of Facebook or Instagram, you can boost posts out to target audiences with £5, 10 quid. We can actually get decent return with using a very small amount of social media advertising, whereas TikTok is still very organic and is still very much driven from personalities within the organization or in your business. And lastly, Pinterest. So very much what we're seeing with Pinterest is a bit of a drop off actually in usage. The platform is very much used for people who are planning big life moments, and this is less about returning to the pub and it's more maybe about buying their first house or getting married, etc. So this is probably a little bit less relevant to what we're going to be talking about today.
As we've already mentioned, Instagram is one of the fastest growing platforms in Ireland on social media, and it's a really great place to get active with food and drink. It's highly immersive, highly visual, and the perfect place to showcase your offering. When putting together posts for the channel, you want to look at what makes a great post. And with this platform, because it's so visual, you really have a great way to showcase all of your offerings. Take some time, get some lovely imagery, keep your copy short and relevant to the point, leverage hashtags where possible, mention the brands that you're using when you're creating cocktails and different drinks, and take a little bit of time to get to know the platform itself. The functionality within Instagram is brilliant, so you don't have to be a world-class photographer, videographer, or even copywriter. Use what's there on the platform and leverage it to the best of your ability. There's so many amazing filters within Instagram, so if you do take a photo and you're thinking, is it up to scratch? Is it popping? Is it as glossy and gorgeous as it can be? Don't worry about it. Have a play around with the filters, turn up the saturation, bring the different filters through and play around until you are happy with the finished article. Instagram Stories is one of the greatest features within Instagram. It's where you can get really, really deep down into the day-to-day of your business. The content lives for 24 hours, so you can share content in real time and bring people along the journey with you. When you're making the stories, there are so many different features in there that can really bring them to life. You can add text, you can add music, you can add GIFs, and best of all, you can tag your customers or different brands to reach a higher network. Within Instagram Stories, there are so many other features like boomerang, super zoom, and rewind, so you can really create some great content with this. Spend a bit of time playing around with Instagram Stories and look at the different features that are available. You can download things to have content ready to go in advance, and you can add music and loads of different features. You don't need to be a graphic designer or anything fancy like that when it comes to Instagram, and Stories really is where you can add loads of great text and functionality. Once you're finished with your stories, even though they only last for 24 hours, you can hold on to them by using the highlight filter. The highlight option on Instagram allows you to save stories down to your profile so that when users land on your profile for the first time, they have the opportunity to really get to know you by having a look at your highlights. So whether it's events that you want to showcase, your menu, reservations, or just general frequently asked questions, really take some time to plot out your highlights and use it as a showcase of all the hard work that you've been putting into Instagram Stories. We mentioned TikTok earlier on. And Instagram has almost its own version of TikTok. Instagram Reels is a new functionality that allows you to create really quick video content and add another layer to your content that you're creating. You can make really short videos, add a little bit of character through different music, and share it on your channels.
Thanks, Nicola. We're now going to take you through some content ideas that you can implement on your social media channels in the run-up to the reopening. We're going to take a look, first of all, at the basics. So this might seem really surprising to say, but so many outlets actually forget about these basics, and making sure that your Instagram or your Twitter or your Facebook platform feature things like your location, your opening hours, how to book tables, contact details, making sure that you have a really well-designed social media platform that maybe somebody isn't coming to your social account to interact with you. Maybe they just want to find out the vital business information about your business. And really, we are seeing this more and more, that a lot of pubs, restaurants, bars are actually almost using their social media platforms in lieu of a website. So actually having that vital information there on your social media platforms would just allow people to get that information really fast. Look, as we mentioned earlier on, a lot of outlets are going to be reopening. They may need to hire new staff. We have seen a lot of outlets using social media platforms to advertise for new staff or to recruit for vacancies in their business. And, really think about how you might do this. So we can see here an example from a pub, that's using an Instagram wall post. Similarly, a brand could use a piece of video content through Instagram Stories, which features a member of staff talking about what it's like to work in that particular bar and the reasons why they should come and join that particular team. So think about how you might utilize your social media platforms for filling those vacancies. Another point really is that I suppose it's been a while since we've all been in a pub, and that, you know, the way in which pubs operate may have changed because of COVID safety regulations. Use your platforms to, I suppose, give some level of comfort, give some reassurance to customers who may be joining you for the first time in over a year, nearly 2, and being able to get back in, understand how things are done now. Maybe you have outdoor seating, maybe there's distance between chairs, there might be certain areas that are closed off to the public, and just make sure that you're using your social media platforms effectively to educate your customers before they come back in your doors. In addition, we've touched on food earlier on. Great opportunity here to use a platform like Instagram to inform people about what awaits them in terms of your food offering, as if you are indeed a pub that serves food. Also, if you have menu items that have changed, so maybe you have a scaled back menu, maybe you have new menu items that you're actually pushing, maybe there's drinks and food deals that you're pushing as well. So being able to use the platform, there's a very rich audience when it comes to using, I suppose, kind of Instagram for food-based content. So being able to leverage that in your benefit. In addition, outdoor dining is obviously a big topic right now, and we're seeing a lot of pubs, bars and restaurants investing in outdoor dining areas. And this is a great example here from Proper Food, where they actually created a Google map of every pub in Ireland that was doing outdoor dining. So look for these opportunities. This particular map went viral actually about a week ago or so, and a lot of pubs, bars and restaurants were actually applying to be featured on this map. This map is being used by people who are looking to book a night out with their mates, and they're doing their bit of research and actually look to see, is there any menu maps or outlet maps that you could be featured on for your particular pub or bar. And then, as we've touched on a number of times, is that, making sure that people understand the process when they come back to your pub, bar, your establishment. And, being able to tell people when bookings are open, how they can book, what time, bookings are open from, and your opening hours, and using your social media platforms to really drive bookings. It's great to post, amazing pictures of cocktails, etc. But sometimes people just want the basics. They want to understand how they can actually book in to come and visit your establishment. There's some great examples of additional content pieces that you can layer in that are available to you from Jemison. So we touched on Instagram stories earlier on. There's actually a whole library of what we call Giphies or GIF stickers that you can apply to your Instagram stories. You can see here some of these are themed around, it's good to be back, welcome back, or the bar now open. So again, being able to utilize these branded stickers in terms of your Instagram content, and obviously we're directing people to, I suppose, drive the rate of sale of Jemison as well. And then lastly, when it comes to considering your content, is think about the calendar days. So there are moments in time when you can create content that feels natural because you're getting involved in the wider conversation that people are having at that moment in time. We've outlined some key dates in June and July, everything from obviously the June bank holiday right through to the All-Ireland Hurling Final in... We've outlined some dates here, so the likes of, the June bank holiday, right through to the All-Ireland Hurling Final next month in July. So being able to have moments in time that you can base your content around that feels like you're getting involved in a wider conversation, again, will just afford you some more resonance with your audiences.
So having a look at all those calendar dates will lead you then to think about what's it all going to look like. So when creating content, there's a couple of tips and tricks that we have to help you bring it to that next level. Now, we said before that you don't need to be a videographer, photographer, copywriter, all that kind of thing. There's a few really simple tips that we have to help you along the way. So when you're looking at video capture, kind of have 3 main things in your mind. Think about the location. Is it a quiet area? Is the backdrop behind you nice? What is the customer going to look at? Recording on your smartphone, there's some great ways to get lovely content through any phone. So keeping it in landscape, lining yourself up nicely. If you can, invest in a tripod or a couple of little bits to help you bring it to the next level. And then always, always, always review your content. So once you've recorded it, make sure you're happy with it. You can record as many times as you like, so don't be afraid of spending a bit of time to get it right. Once you're happy with it, brilliant. It's time to get it up, get it out there. We always kind of recommend that you do 2 or 3 takes as you go through it, because you can always do things a little bit snappier, a little bit better. When you are looking at kind of different tools that you can leverage, obviously having tripods and things like that can be great, and little ring lights. They're really kind of small things that you can pick up on the likes of Amazon, get them delivered to your door, and can take you to that next level a little bit easier. outside of that, there are some great tools on different apps that you can leverage. So we've got some there on screen for you to try out. I know we mentioned boomerangs earlier on when we were talking about Instagram stories. There's a whole app dedicated to that. And I think there is not one person out there who doesn't love a good cheersing boomerang. When you're looking at the copy that goes along with your videos or your feed posts, visuals, all that kind of thing, there are a couple of things to bear in mind, and I think hashtags is one of those main things that can sometimes often be overlooked, but they are really a great way of getting your message further out there. So have a look at kind of brand hashtags. They should be ownable, so whether it's the name of your establishment, if it's a group, maybe it's the name and your current location. Spend a bit of time to think about something that's unique and isn't already being used. So example would be hashtag love your local. When you are kind of adding hashtags to your content, think of things that are going to be searchable. So coming up to, you know, Paddy's Day, hashtagging Paddy's Day, Father's Day, all those kind of key events, people are going to be posting about them. So if you are, adding a hashtag will add you into that kind of wider conversation and get your reach a little bit further. Then outside of that, just, I suppose, a little bit of housekeeping on the hashtags. When it comes to the likes of Instagram, you've got up to 30 to use on the channel, but we would recommend that you keep them relevant. So 2 to 3 max per post is absolutely golden. So don't get bogged down in the details when it comes to hashtags. When it comes to sort of still photography, there's a couple of things that you can bear in mind in order to get some wonderful shots. So there's a little bit more there on the slide that will take you through the rule of thirds, and a few quick wins when it comes to using your smartphone is kind of adding HD or auto settings so that you can get that crisper shot. One thing as well that sometimes I think people can forget about is the power of focus. So popping your finger onto the face of somebody if you're taking a visual of a person, or onto the kind of the key focus of a drink. So whether it's the ice in the glass or the liquid as it's about to pour, the focus is your friend when it comes to getting really good shots.
That was great. Thanks a million, Nicola. And look, thank you for joining us today, and very best of luck with the reopening. We hope you found most of that, if not all of it, helpful and insightful in terms of the Jameson Love Your Local social media workshop. And yeah, we can't wait to get back in the doors. So very best of luck.